Hey y'all, welcome back to the farm. Today we're going to be doing some oil changes. So I've been talking to some people and it's come up about things like maintenance, like how to take care of your car. And one of the things that a lot of people don't know how to do is change the oil. And to be frank, I didn't know how to change oil in the vehicle for a long time. But the cool thing about changing oil is it's a really simple, straightforward job to do. And you can do it it's pretty much the same for any vehicle. So we're gonna change the oil in 3 vehicles today. We're gonna do it in a Kia sedan, a Ford Ranger, and an old Toyota 4Runner. And in each one, the process is gonna be pretty much the same. And we'll walk step by step through that. So here's what you need to do an oil change. First thing you need is oil. We're using a product from Amazon Basics. It's a very high quality oil. I'm going to link to a video comparing Amazon Basics oil to some of the leading brands of oil, just so you can go check it out. The guy at Project Farm did a great video comparing the oils. The next thing you need is an oil filter. So we've got an oil filter for each vehicle, and oil filters they come in all shapes and sizes. So you'll notice that we've got a very large one for the Ford Ranger and then a very small one for the Kia. So when you go buy your oil filter, if you haven't done that before, the best thing to do is to go to your local auto parts store, tell them what kind of vehicle you have, and they'll be able to help you find the right filter for your car. For each vehicle, you only need one tool, and that's a socket to get the oil plug out. The Ranger and the Kia use the same size, a 13mm socket, and the 4Runner uses a 14mm socket. The 2 other things you're going to need is something to catch the oil in. You can catch the oil in an oil pan such as this. This one's pretty old. I've used it for a long time. But if you don't have one of those, you can always use an oil or a other plastic jug that you cut the side out of so you can catch the oil in there. The benefit of using something like this is then you can take off the cap for pouring the oil out into our recycling container later. And then the last thing you need is something to recycle the oil in. I just use gallon milk jugs. You can use a funnel, dump the used oil into your gallon milk jug, and then take it to either your local auto parts store or some other oil recycling facility. They'll take the oil from you and they'll get it disposed of properly. All right, so without further ado, let's go take a look at the vehicles and get this started. So here's the vehicles we're working on today. Like I said, we got this Kia Sorento. It's a Kia sedan. We got Ford Ranger. And back there in the back, we got the Toyota 4Runner. The first thing we got to do is open the hoods of each of these cars. The way we're going to do that is open up the driver's side door, reach under, grab the latch for the hood, and then after that, we should see the hood pop up a little bit. Once the hood pops up a little bit, we can walk around to the front, feel under the hood for the hood latch, open that up. The hood will release all the way, and then we'll secure the hood in place. So the next step, after we've inspected the engine bay and taken a look at some of the other fluids in our car, is we're going to go underneath. The first thing we're going to do is get our oil pan on the ground under the oil plug, and then take the oil plug out of each of these vehicles.
So like I was saying earlier, the first step we got to do here is we got to get the oil plug out of the bottom of the oil pan. Now this Toyota has got a bash plate on the bottom. This bash plate protects the engine, and it has a hole right here for accessing the oil plug. So you're not going to be able to see this one, but what I got to do is I got to reach up there with the socket, feel it out. So I find the oil plug, and I loosen it out. Oh, there it goes. So once you got it loose, and that's the hard part, is getting it loose. So once you got it loose, what you want to do is come in by hand and start loosening it up. So I want to make sure this is going to catch my oil, and I'm loosening it, We should start feeling a drip. There you go. All right. That's the first one. We're going to let this drain down, and while we're doing that, we're going to go take a look at the other ones. So here we are under the Ranger. You can see we've got one of our makeshift oil pans. And I'm going to show you how this works. So the Ranger's fill plug is right here on the bottom of the oil pan, and we're just going to get started again. Okay, so now that it's loose, we're going to loosen it a little bit more. and start taking it out. And we're gonna make sure our oil pan is right there on the bottom underneath it. Here it goes, there it goes. I'll move that a little bit so it catches it, and that oil is gonna come out real quick. All right, great. That's 2 out of 3. Let's go do the Kia. All right, so here we are under the Kia. Y'all can't see it because it's really tight under here, but the oil plug is right here. So you can actually reach it from the front of the vehicle or just behind the front passenger tire. So I've actually swapped it out my ratchet for a 1/2 inch socket. I'm gonna put it over there, loosen it up, and now that I've got it loose, I'm gonna pull my catch can underneath it and let it go. All right, there we go.
Now do be careful. If you've just recently run your car and your car engine feels warm to the touch, that oil is going to come out and be very, very hot. So if your engine is warm, please take caution as you're taking that oil plug out. So once we take out the oil plug, what we'll do is we'll let all the oil drain out of the engine before we go on to the next step. All right, so now that we got the oil drained out of these engines, the next thing we want to do is go find the filter in each one and take the old filter out and put the new filter in. Now for these two, for the Ranger and for the Kia, the filters are all on the bottom near the oil pan. But because the 4Runner was designed to be a 4-wheel off-road vehicle, the oil filter is actually on top. So let's go to each of these vehicles now, take the old filter out and put the new filter in.
So like I was saying previously, this is the Toyota 4Runner oil filter. As I said, it's on top of the engine, keeping it out of the water and keeping it away from the road. I just got my rag on there, loosened it up, loosened the rest of the way up by hand. You can see a little oil spills out, but it spills into that cup and I just wipe it out. So just take the new filter, throw it on there. We're going to tighten it up by hand. It takes a little while. There's a lot of threads on there. Then once I get it hand tight, I'm going to take my rag and throw it on there and tighten it up the rest of the way. Now, once I've got this thing tightened, I want to make sure I've got my oil plug back in there and then I can fill it up with oil. Now, the Kia and the Ranger, their oil filters are installed upright. So one of the things we want to do is pre-fill those filters with oil. So what I've done is I've taken those filters, turned them upside down in the box. That helps them stand upright while I pour oil in from the top. Now what you want to do here is you want to fill it up with oil. You'll be able to look down into that hole and see how full it is. And once you get it up to the top, you'll take a little bit of oil and you'll put it on that rubber seal, and then it'll be ready for install. What this does is it keeps the engine full of oil so that your oil pump doesn't have to fill the filter up first before getting oil to your engine. All right, so I'm just going to fill up both of these and then we'll get them installed.
Okay, so here's the filter. Here's the oil filter for the Ranger. So first thing we want to do is take our oil pan and move it over a little bit because we want to catch any oil that comes out of this. Now the next thing we do is, just like with the 4Runner, we take our rag and we grab the bottom of it and we give it a twist. Now see, this one's coming off a lot easier because I was the last one to do this. So I've got it loosened up. I'm going to reach up again. And we don't expect a lot of oil to come out of this, but there will be some oil that dumps out. So I'm just trying to line myself up. Take that oil filter out. Here comes some oil. We're going to move our thing a little bit. And at this point, we'll just see how fast we can do it because we are going to get a little messy regardless. All right, there we go. So it's just dumping out some oil and we're clear. So I'll often just take my oil filter and just drop it down. Take my oil filter and drop it down in the oil pan. And then I'll take my new filter. Remember, it's full of new oil. And I'll put it up. Try to go right back where it goes. Just twist it up in there, and then I'll get my rag back out to make it a little bit easier to grab onto because my hands are all oily. And get it nice and hand tight. Now when I can't twist it anymore, that's as tight as I want it to go, because remember, I gotta get this thing off the next time I do this oil change. All right, let's go do the Kia. So here we are at the last one. We're here back at the Kia. What I'm gonna do first is go ahead and put this, I've already put the oil drain plug back up in there, and we are going to tighten that down. Now remember, just like we talked about before, we're not trying to get this thing super tight. We're trying to get this thing tightened down to where it doesn't leak, but so that we can also get it off later. There's no point in getting your impact driver on this or torquing it down to a bajillion foot-pounds, all right? You're gonna have to get this off in 5,000 miles, so just remember that. Okay, so here's the filter for the Kia. Once again, it's tight down here, but this is something you can reach from the very front of the vehicle. With your oil plug right here and your filter right here, this car is really easy to service. Okay, so I'm gonna pull my pan about where the filter is, reach up in there, and see if I can't get this thing to turn. Now the cool thing about this filter is I'm pretty sure you can also reach it from the top. So if you can't get a good grip on it down here, you can also reach it right down in here. So if you can't get a good handle on it from the bottom, you can reach it from the top. And reach up. Looking for a little bit of oil to start dripping out. There we go. And you can let some of that oil drip out just so your hand doesn't get so messy. But a little bit of oil. And we'll get that coming the rest of the way off now. Okay, dump it in. There we go. So now that oil is filtering out, we can get the new oil filter. And once again, remember, we filled this up, right? We filled this up with oil. We put it up in there. And we'll give that a tighten. This Fram oil filter has a abrasive backing to it, which makes it really easy to get a hold on. Sometimes when your hands are all oily, it gets difficult to reach up in there and give it a tighten. But in this case, I think we're good to go. All right, that's in there. We got the oil plug. I went ahead and threw the oil plug in the rest of the engines. So let's go ahead and get up top and fill these things back up with brand new oil.
Now, I didn't get this footage for the Ranger or the 4Runner, but I want to reiterate that this is the point in the process. You want to get that oil plug back in the oil pan. You want to get that in there hand tight, just tight enough to where it's not dripping, but not so tight that you can't get it off the next time you have to do an oil change.
All right, we're nearly to the end. There are only 2 more steps left in this process, and this is a big one. You got to add the oil you dumped out back into the engine. So what we're going to do is you're going to find the oil filler cap. This one clearly says engine oil on it. I'm going to take that off, and I'm going to put my funnel right down that filler. So now I'm going to start pouring. Now, what you're going to want to know ahead of time is what the oil capacity of your engine is. So I know this car needs a lot of oil. So what I'm going to do is dump what's left of this into my engine, and then I'll go check the dipstick to see where we're at. So with that oil all poured down the filler neck, I'm going to come over to this side of the engine where I've got my dipstick and take a look where we're at. And this says I'm near the top, so that might be perfect. I'm going to let that settle while I go fill up the other 2 cars. And if it settles down below that bottom hatch, I'll just put some more in it and bring it back up. Let's go do the other 2 real quick. All right, no surprises here. Just like the other engine, the oil filler neck is right here on top. Take off that cap, put my funnel in the engine, take a little peek down there, see how everything's looking. Everything's looking a lot cleaner than the Toyota. And then start pouring that oil. All right, now we poured some in. I'll grab my dipstick. Check out where my oil's at. Oil's right there in the middle. So we're gonna add a little bit more because we're gonna leak a little bit. And then just like the 4Runner, we'll let that settle down. We'll check it again later before we seal it off. All right, and one more time. Filler next up top. Drop in the funnel. There we go. Right at the top hatch. We'll let that settle down. We'll come check it in a bit. Okay, so now that we've got the cars filled up with oil, it's time for us to do the last step, and that's making sure we dispose of all this oil properly. So here you can see I've got all my oil pans, and in front of me I've got this box. This is the box that all my oil came in, and inside there I've got 4-gallon jugs of 4-gallon milk jugs. So what I'm going to do now is first thing I do is reach down in there, grab my filters, and I put them back in the filter box they came in. I find this is just a good way for me to keep track of them, and it makes handling them a little bit easier because they're normally covered in oil. I'm going to put that down on my feed sack here. Same thing with the Kia filter. All right. All right, now I'm going to take these one at a time and start pouring them into my milk jugs. Now the cool thing about this setup here is that between the box and my feed sacks, I shouldn't make a huge mess on my driveway. I'm going to use this funnel to get that. I'm going to use that funnel to get the oil inside the jugs. And if I do this well, I won't make a huge mess, but I wouldn't count on it. All right, we'll pick up my first oil pan and start pouring. All right, so I'm going to drain the rest of these oil in these milk jugs, and then when I'm done with it, I'll take all these milk jugs to my auto parts store in town. They're an oil, they collect the oil for me, so I'll take it over there, dump it in their big oil receivers, and that's it. That's how you take care of disposing of your oil properly. All right, folks, and just like that, we changed the oil on 3 vehicles. 3 very different vehicles where the oil change was almost exactly the same. Now, to recap, what you do is first you pull out the drain plug and drain the oil. Then you change out the filter. Then you fill up your engine with oil. And finally, you dispose of the oil properly by dumping your oil out into disposable containers that you can take to either to a recycling center or your auto parts store to be disposed of properly. Now, in summation, why would we do something like this? Changing your own oil is one of those things that a lot of people take for granted. It's easy to take it into town and get it done at any oil change place, any garage, but it's not a hard thing to do, and it's very cost effective to do it yourself. Secondly, it gets you in touch with your vehicle. Not enough people get into their hoods, get under their car, see what's going on. And by going and taking a look at it, you can become more familiar with your automobile and be more likely to identify when something's going wrong. When we changed the oil in my wife's Explorer, we were down there and we realized that something looked weird with the suspension. We looked it up online, and sure enough, one of the bushings for the lower control arms was completely eaten up. The rubber was gone. And we wouldn't have known it had we not been down there searching around for it. And the last benefit is you get the satisfaction of doing it yourself. I think like nowadays, there's far too many things that are seen outside the scope of common people. And I think there's so much that, people at home, especially during quarantine, can be educating themselves on how to do. So, I'm not saying that a mechanic doesn't have a place. I think mechanics are super important. I think you should definitely have a mechanic that you trust. So if something does go wrong with your engine and you don't have the ability or the confidence to fix it yourself, definitely take it to a mechanic that can help you. But things like an oil change are well within your ability to do yourself. So highly recommend you give it a shot, give it a try. And then also remember that because we did this ourselves, we want to make sure that we're checking our work. So, drive a week, check your oil level. Drive a week, check your oil level. Check under your parking spot for spots. Just make sure that you did a good job. So I hope you found this useful. I had a lot of fun. My son did a great job at doing the video work, and we just had a blast recording this for you. So if you have questions about oil changes, let me know. If you have comments about how I did it, let me know. Either way, thanks very much for watching, and hope to see you again soon. Bye now.
You missed out on a pun.
What's that?
You said, let her go. Should have said, let it rip.
Why is
And
that?
then started playing Beyblade music over it. Let it rip. Beyblade, Beyblade, Beyblade.
There's a reason you don't help me with this very much.
Yeah.
Alright, you wanna do oil filters now?
Yeah.
Frank's Oil and Lube is franking things up. I mean, seriously, it's not supposed to be that tight.
Yeah.
The Ranger won't be that tight, but I guarantee you the key will be that tight.
Well, the Ranger won't be that tight because we're the only ones who worked on it.
Yeah, I know.
In recent history. In the past couple of years. I don't
Jesus
think we've taken
Christ.
this
Would you go get a pipe wrench? We're gonna have to use a pipe wrench to loosen this up.
Wait, which one's the pipe?
The big one that has the big nut on it. It looks like an adjustable wrench.